Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show, and welcome back to another game review. You guessed it, another Red Room game. A complete departure from last week's Red Room game review, Grindhouse. This one goes in like the most opposite direction you could possibly imagine. Whereas the Grindhouse was degeneracy up on stage for all to see, this is possibly one of the most wholesome games I've ever come across since, what was it, Bunnies and Barrows by Fantasy Games Unlimited way back in the day. This one is End of Innocence. I'm going to read the back blurb as I always do, but let me get my readers. Anyways, there is a moment in late summer when life changes, when the endless days of idleness begin to shorten and the first yellow leaves appear on maple trees, when childhood stands on the edge of something else, something less magical. This is a game about that moment, about the last great adventures of childhood, the mysteries solved and secrets uncovered before the world becomes too rational. It's about kids riding their bikes down sun-dappled streets, investigating strange happenings and discovering that reality has many more layers than adults would have them believe. I've always been a big fan of things like, you guys know I really enjoyed Stranger Things where others didn't. And I was absolutely pleasantly surprised to see references to Erie, Indiana. I thought I was the only person who remembered that short-lived show. I think it made it 2 seasons, but I could be wrong. And there are very many other references, especially I noticed Miguel was a big fan of Ray Bradbury's Something Wicked This Way Comes and Stand By Me, The Goonies, but that was the one. Ray Bradbury's Dandelion Wine and Something Wicked This Way Comes. I read Dandelion Wine when I was a youngster and never thought I would read it again or think about it again. When I read it, I was at that age, and it just didn't really sink in, because I don't think it was meant to sink in to my developing brain. Some would say, never mind. I really like this one. Now, clearly, I'm almost 60, and the idea of playing teenagers riding around on bikes, getting into adventures, could only appeal so much. But at the same time, there's a part of me and a lot of other people, I can't help but be reminded of a couple of episodes of The Twilight Zone, movies like Cocoon, and others where folks my age and older start looking back on that era. But I also did play a lot of what we called victim games using Palladium's Beyond the Supernatural Rules. There's like 2 or 3 pages at the end of the book, and we used that more than the whole rest of the book, except for the monsters, if you will, making up characters. And we my friends and I, Richard and I, we made teenagers on bikes, back in the early 80s. Mind you, we were teenagers ourselves, but we still ran some characters that discovered all kinds of crazy stuff going on in a little town. And that's the same thing here, except that Miguel has given us 2 separate towns to explore and to go into. And I'm going to cover those in episode 2, because I think they totally warrant a deeper dive than I can put in here. And I don't want to keep you guys for more than 15-20 minutes as per my usual videos. But you've heard me go on and explain all of the rules for all of the Red Room games. They're all more or less red or micro red, and you've got your stats, your 6 stats, going from 1 to 18. However, here they actually cap them out at 16 for the kid characters. Kind of like the age too. You really shouldn't be running anybody older than that. It takes away from the feel of this game. And of course, you've got your perks and your drawbacks, your life path. All of these, there's because of this setting, there aren't as many here as there would be in some of the other games with a lot more archetypes and things like that. But there's still more than enough to run, like 20 different characters if kids get killed, or if you want to run this several different times. And again, this is probably one of those games that you could run for a year-long campaign. With most RedRoom games, you're looking at, I think 12 sessions would be, depending on how long they are, would be about as long as I'd want to push this game. But we've got, as characters, we've got the adventurer, the alien contactee, the animal lover, the arcade wizard, the athlete, the bookworm, the boy or girl scout, the class clown, the collector, the cursed child, the dreamer, the little detective, the little entrepreneur, nature explorer, neighborhood watch, new kid, peacemaker, performer, poltergeist magnet, psychic kid, rebel, teacher's pet, tinkerer, and tomboy. And I'm not going to lie, I went through the archetypes and I'm like, what was my archetype as a youngster? And to be honest, I think I actually was a couple of different things at different times, from like this age to here, which you can absolutely do in most RedRoom games. You can switch your archetype. You lose your unique feat for the new archetype, but even now I've had, at this point in life, I've had 20 different careers, and which archetype would I be now? I don't know, whatever bonehead on the internet is classified as, but there we go. Skills, same thing. There's a medium list of about 20 different skills, and that's all you need, because a lot of them can be specialized to make it more of this particular skill than that particular skill. But for the most part, you've got animal care, arts and crafts, athletics, bike riding, fist fight, gadgets and gizmos, influence, investigation, knowledge, languages, first aid, self-defense, outdoor skills, performance, psychics, sneaking, street smarts, target practice, and weird lore. I don't remember seeing anything about the mystic arts. I think that might be something out of bounds for the kids, even though you can have a kid with some psychic powers, but of course they're going to be, fire starter-esque and not quite that dangerous, but that kind of young budding psychic. Definitely not like 11 in Stranger Things, but definitely everything here is more than enough to run one of these kinds of games. Also, the psychics and all the skills only go up to level 3, because there's no way you're beyond really good at a skill. It's beginner, pretty good, and really good. That's it. You're no master, you're no teacher, no expert. You're really good at it. Maybe you'll make a career out of it someday. And that's something I was thinking about. This would be a great game to run before some of the other games. Like you start your characters out here, and then you skip, when you get to a certain point, then you go into high school and college and get maybe another life path role or something like that. Then you go into college, and then you could be running those characters as something else, and have these as like your childhood memories, which I think would be kind of fun if you got the right group together. Again, this whole game hinges on having the right group of kids that are going to play in character and not go too far over into the deep end and using too many grown-up memories and abilities and knowledge. I also think that I believe this game is supposed to take place in like the 70s or 80s, which is some of the best eras for these kinds of stories, as well as many of the other RedRoom games, which I wholeheartedly endorse. The perks, again, with everything else, has been toned down to make sense in this genre, whereas in other games they're much wider, stretching perks and disadvantages. And as all the games, through experience points, you could earn enough XP to buy another perk or buy back or buy off a drawback. And it was also interesting to see which actual special abilities and whatnot the archetypes got. I thought that was very amusing. And I got to hand it to Miguel once again. Also, the acquisition rules. I hate to say it, but this game makes the absolute most sense for having to roll this and play this out versus being a grown-up where, I've got, I know how much money is in my wallet right now. I know how much is in my bank account. I know how much money, I literally know how many quarters I have in my jar of quarters, okay? So that, for me, I'm a miser. So I know how much money I have. But for a kid, having to roll and justify being able to get a hold of a flashlight or a walkie-talkie or whatever, everything below like getting a gun, or explosives or poison or, things like that, that would be absolutely impossible. But, even just getting a BB gun, you're going to have to work for it. Maybe even save up your allowance or do things, that would keep you out of the, investigation process. Like, hey, I got to do some extra chores, guys, so I can earn up enough money to get us a BB gun. Freaking absolutely, this is where the acquisition rules will shine more than any other game, make the most sense, and be fun to role play, trying to acquire the little gadgets, the first aid kit or whatever it is you guys are going to need to go down into, investigate the sewers or the creepy, rundown building or the haunted house or whatever, and even then, as kids, you're gonna have like one piece of equipment, maybe two or three, and it really takes the group to work together. You're in charge of the snacks, you're in charge of the water bottles, you're in charge of the flashlight and the candles, all of that. Absolutely, we as kids had the same thing. My friends and I, we would actually explore the sewer tunnels and the riverbed and places like that as kids, and we would literally have to put one of our buddies, okay, you're responsible for this, you're responsible for that, and Tuesday we're going to all meet here, and then we're going to go into the tunnels. And I could tell you some stories that would make your skin crawl and your hair turn white with some of the things we actually encountered in some of our own little adventures. And if you've had any of those, or you ever wished you had, or you wanted to play it out, this is the absolute perfect game for that. If you've got a bunch of like-minded folks who want to do this, or I was thinking about this because of our own personal situation here at home with the young man, young Master Jackson, getting ready to graduate, and he's playing D&D with his friends every couple of weeks, and they've only got maybe 2 or 3, maybe 4 sessions left before all his friends go off in their different directions, college, military, etc. Having a game like this, playing one game like this to kind of, have an adventure that they never got to have thanks to, the thing that happened to all of them. This would be one of those games that I could drop down or see drop down on a table of other people's kids going, hey, maybe you want to give this a try. You as the dad or the mom, GM, running them through a little adventure before they go off. Or maybe, they're not ready to graduate. Maybe they're, 13, 14, 15. And, okay, Billy, Joey, Janie, you're all going to play yourself. And I'm going to tell you what your numbers are, and I'm going to put you in a situation, and let's see what happens. Kind of like V&B, where you played yourself. Or, maybe they're a little bit older, but still they're going to play some other kid that's different from themselves, maybe even like the opposite of what they are, so they could, stretch out and see what it's like to do different things in their life and in their future. Experience points, we went over that. Combat, with these characters could be very, very lethal, but running away should be the goal in every situation. Very few kids should ever, get into a fight, other than a fist fight or something like that. And with the monsters and creatures that are in the monster section, I highly recommend that they get the heck out of Dodge. Or maybe there's a grown up NPC with them to help them out, and I'll hold them off, kids. Make a break for it, that kind of thing. That would be great. Or that one or two times when so and so one of the characters does stand up to the bully, or make this speech to the vampire, or something, where they do stand up and have some sort of moment of conflict that's more than just snooping and investigating and sneaking around the parents. The fear and panic rules are identical to all the other rules. Investigation, what constitutes an investigation, and how to run them. More so than the other games, this really does go into that. Then your dream abilities. Every kid has one of the kids has a minor little ability that helps them out, during their sleeping hours. The weird meter and its effects on their fear and their exposure to strange and unusual things. And the psychic abilities, all very minor versions of your standard, psychic abilities that are in all the other games, just toned down to make them useful, but not turn them into the star of the game where everybody wants to run a psychic character. Magic is definitely a thing here, and there's actually some really interesting spells in here. Then it goes into the adversary section, and almost every one of them is more than a match for a relatively medium average size group of kids. Is just going to get wiped out unless they really work together and stick together and come up with a plan to beat them. Lots of grown-ups and adults, all the way to cryptids. You want to say hi to the audience? He's down here. He won't. There he is. There he is. Oh, they see you. You're a good boy. Why do you gotta do that? Why do you gotta do that? I know you don't have to go to the bathroom. I just took you out there because I knew I was coming up here. He just wants some attention. And I highly recommend there being a mascot animal. That should have been something that was in here. A pet, a faithful, loyal dog or something like that. Of course, it's got to be a dog. Supernatural creatures. Supernatural creature. Vampire. What is he? Health 45. That's going to be more health than the entire party, combined. Then there's... I would be totally blowing it if I didn't mention these. These were one of my favorite parts, Miguel. I don't know where you got these from, but these were some of the best creatures you've ever put in any of your books. These were the setting-specific monsters. The between house thing. It's some sort of thing that lives in between, closely built houses. I don't know if you ever lived in neighborhoods like that. I did once, and the houses were that much space, but there was always this little bit of space in between the buildings. The empty house host, the neighborhood stalker, the night garden prowler, the storm drain dweller. We ran into one of those. The school grounds entity, definitely ran into one of those. After school, sun's going down, it's dark, but the street lights are on, and you're making your shortcut through the street, through the school playground or track and field area, and you see something out of the corner of your eyes. The lost child, the playground wraith, the teacher's shadow. All of these were just absolutely wonderful entities. Unfortunately, they would only really work in this setting, but they're so good. The summer break horrors, the summer camp mimic, the trail walker, the hood watcher. I suppose a couple of these could be used in a low-powered X-Files investigation game, or even in Grindhouse. The urban legend come true, The Carnival Collector, The Mall Hunter. Ran into one of those when we were in the mall after hours. We didn't make it out to, you know, the front doors in time and had to eventually get let out by the security guard. The Movie Theater Haunter, The Parking Lot Predator. Still got those everywhere, don't we? Just watched a video on one of those today. Traditional childhood monsters, the the closet monster, the boogie monster, and the child-eating ogre. Never ran into one of those. And then we come into the two towns, San Cristobal Bay, and what was the other one? And to be honest, and Oak Brook. I just started reading about San Cristobal Bay. This one really, really sounds right up my alley. I wish I could have been on a summer vacation like this one. Unfortunately, we didn't do summer vacations like that growing up. We just didn't have the ability to do that. But then again, I lived in Huntington Beach, so I was still at the beach. But I digress. Absolutely love this book. If it sounds like it's something up your alley, let me know, because I know some friends and some players out there that I bet might be up for a game like this. If they had the time, they'd be like, you know what, I could do that. I could do that, and I could do that well, and I think I'd have fun at it. Let me know if you're playing it. I will, because I do kind of want to run this. Not more than the other games that I'm working on, but this one definitely sounds like a lot of fun. Once again, Miguel, right out of the park with this one. Always surprises me with his wonderful writing style and his absolute love of whatever he's writing about. He does the research and you know, does his due diligence and gives it the attention it's worth. Obviously, otherwise why, you know, put it out? But I mean, really in depth. This book is what, 247 pages more or less, plus character sheets, that sort of thing. Nice maps of areas with plenty of room to write in. I really like that. That if you were to photocopy these maps, there's plenty of room to add things and let the kids, you know, players write their own little notes in there. But let me know what you think. If you think I'm just an old fart, you know, wishing he was, you know, 16 again, or if it's something that you'd be willing to play. Obviously not for everybody, but I think everybody should play a game like this at least once. But that's what I've got for you this morning. There will be no second breakfast today. I've got a dentist appointment at 9 a.m., which is when the show normally starts. But I will be back Wednesday with another Why We Play the Game and another second breakfast. Until then, folks, have an absolutely wonderful day. I will see you guys all in the funny papers.